I help you?
We'll be asking the questions, old man. Who are you?
You.
No, not me, you.
Yes, I am you.
Just answer the questions. Who are you?
I have told you.
Are you deaf?
No, you is blind.
I'm not blind, you blind.
That is what I just said.
You just said what?
I did not say what. I said you.
That's what I'm asking you.
And you is answering.
Shut up. You.
Yes?
Not you, him. What's your name?
Me.
Yes, you.
I am me. He's me. And I'm you.
And I'm sick of playing games. You, me, everybody's around here. Him. Everybody go.
Hey, good morning to you. Hope everybody's doing well. This is 93.1 and the Mighty 1190. We're glad you're with us. You know, we will use the Talk of the Town segment to bring in politicians and talk about different things that are going on. And a lot of times we bring people in and somebody we've never met before. But this guy we've known for a long, long time. Todd Johnson's, from here and represents us here, and glad to have him back in the station. It's been a while. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Shane. Thanks for having me in today.
How's life treating you?
It's been busy, real busy for a while.
I got to ask you, how old are your sons now?
15 and 12.
We went to eat.
Gosh.
We went to eat supper one night with them at a Japanese restaurant, and they were youngins. I mean, they were kids.
Yeah.
It's amazing at how fast, boom, just like that.
And my oldest is taller than mom and just a hair shorter than me. And it's amazing how fast they grow.
Yeah.
You know, I joke and say that my 15-year-old, I think he's got more hair on his body than me, and his voice is deeper than mine.
And it's amazing at how old me and you got.
Well, you know, it doesn't seem that long ago that you were in. We were talking about protecting our hospital from being sold and all those type of issues, and now you're a state senator in District 35. It's just really
which is our district. It's
That's
Union
right.
County.
Yeah.
It's us.
It's Union County, and there's only 4 precincts in the northwest part of the county, kind of in the Fairview area, that's represented by Paul Newton out of Cabarrus County, another great leader in the Senate, and we're very fortunate to have him.
So you guys have been working really, really closely with the governor over the last 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
He's been taking meetings with you guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, actually, the truth of it is he hasn't even wanted to conversate with state leaders.
No, well, I guess that's where the level of frustration comes is folks want to reach out to us as we represent you. And so folks say, what can we do? What can we do? And what you've seen happen over the last 6 months, and I'm not going to try to get into a bash session or anything, but what you've seen is what I like to refer to as statutory jujitsu. And so what's been kind of crazy is during this epidemic, the quarantine laws that exist and the quarantine statutes that exist in the state are not being used. There's very clear direction and definition to what you do in the state of a quarantine. That's not what's being used. Also, with other decisions require Council of State concurrence. That's not being used. Right. What has been done with the decisions being made, right or wrong, whether you agree with them or not, is basically the taking of local authority away from the local DHHS directors. And quite honestly, I think that our DHHS directors in the state do a great job, and who better to protect the county than folks that live and work and worship in the community.
Well, the whole reason that these departments are broke down by counties because the needs are different. That's the entire purpose of having a DHHS.
So today you've got a Mecklenburg County that's got over 1 million people being treated the same way as Terrell County, the smallest county in the state that has less than 10,000 people.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
And a lot of these decisions, and again, I know some people love the mask mandate, and that's fine, but these decisions have been unilaterally made by the governor, and everybody needs to know that. He has decided what he wanted to do, and he's done it, and he hasn't had discussions, and he hasn't, from what I understand, he's yet to listen to anything the state leaders had to say.
Yeah, he's vetoed everything else.
Everything we've done has been vetoed, which is, again, that's well within his
right to do.
His right to do. So what I tell people, and what I try to make sure folks understand is, if you like what's the direction of the state, then he gets the credit.
That's right.
Because with the response to the COVID, he gets the credit for it. If you've been disappointed and outraged and upset, then he gets the blame, because he has had 100% unfettered control. And the question that we get a lot is, why don't you sue the governor?
Yeah,
sue the governor, and this has got to come to an end.
Right.
He is very smart with his executive orders, because he excludes the legislature and he excludes members of the General Assembly, and why that's important. I'm not an attorney, but what the attorneys tell me is that means that the General Assembly does not have standing. So we can't bring a court case against him. So, again, whether you like it or not, he gets all the credit or all the blame because there's been no communication in terms of with the General Assembly, and the things that we've tried to do to try to represent our constituents have been vetoed. It's been a very frustrating time for a number of folks.
Is there not a lawsuit pending, or was talk of one?
There's a number of lawsuits by a number of different groups. The problem is most of these groups are people that own businesses that have been shut down for 6 months. So not only have you've cut off their ability to make a living, to provide jobs, to give back to their community, but now we're forcing them to spend money on lawsuits.
Yeah, they can't afford
They can't. People can't afford it.
Right.
And it's sad because you see businesses that have been around for 50 and 60 years that have employed the same people for 30 and 40 years.
Yes.
Simply not being able to open back up.
What do you think is going to happen this afternoon as far as an announcement about school?
About schools, I don't know. There's been no communication. I don't think this is anything that there's no right answer to it. I know that there was an article or an editorial in the Charlotte Observer maybe this past week that said that Senate Republicans left schools in a dangerous position or something like that. And it was referring to the fact that we didn't take up Senate Bill 374. But my concern with that is everything we've done has been vetoed, and he has made every decision unilaterally without why do you need us to come in now to make decisions for you?
Right, yeah.
You close the schools, you can open them, you can go virtual, you can do a hybrid. You've controlled this situation the whole time. If you want my advice, I'll be more than happy to give you my advice.
Yeah.
But thus far, that has not been.
Yeah, don't believe any headline you read that's blaming the Republicans for anything because they haven't. They've been shut out of the negotiations.
Haven't even been a part of it. Hasn't had anything to do with it. Now, does the governor have the authority? And you might not know this, but I hope you do. Is there a way that schools in this state could open differently according to the county they're in? Or is this going to be the state of North Carolina is going to do this?
Well, we do have a state board of education that gives direction and gives advice. Now, personally, I have always been supportive of local control because, again, you can't treat all counties the same. And our board of education, whether you like them or you don't, they were elected by us, residents of Union County.
Yep.
And so, again, I would rather our local folks, again, that we eat with and worship with and are part of our community, let them make these decisions about what's best. Because even, forget about the state, think about Union County. We are such a diverse county in that we've got a suburban area and we've got a rural area. And how you break it down even to that small part of the state is going to be different.
We've seen other states be allowed to do things differently in parts of the state that aren't as effective.
Would it be legal in North Carolina for one
Governor
county?
Cooper tends to want to do things on a statewide level.
And that's troubling because, and I get it, I understand it's easier that way and just kind of take one broad stroke, but we're just different. We're different people, and I like to say people that live in Union County, we live here for a reason. We live here because this is where we want to live. We don't live in Mecklenburg County for a reason. Yeah. And so therefore to treat us like Mecklenburg County or to treat us like Terrell County, like I said earlier, it should not be.
Well,
be the case.
If you take Mecklenburg County and Wake County out, we're not even having a discussion about whether or not to open schools, and that's not their fault. It's just that's where the people are. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's so to me, it becomes pretty difficult to say, okay, the other 90 some odd counties are going to do this because this is what the two biggest ones need to do. I just don't see punishing every kid in the state. I don't know.
Well, and there's a number of players in this. So obviously, the kids are who we should consider first. What's going to be best in preparing the kids? Because at some point in time, the kids that are not in school today are going to be the ones performing surgery on us one day. So they've missed. And your subjects like math. Math is not like reading and science. It's conceptual. So you have to build upon it. So they've missed an entire block of that. But then you've also got to keep in mind the teachers. And some of the teachers are maybe part of this at-risk population that the coronavirus does actually have potentially detrimental effects on. So having to kind of balance that piece. But then the piece that I think a lot of times get missed is the parents. Because there are parents that are wanting to go back to work and need to go back to work and can't afford childcare and can't afford these things. And so there's having multiple players and folks that are part of it, you have to consider all avenues.
It's like that's not being considered. Revenue for the state. The convention moving out of Charlotte.
Well,
hundreds of millions of dollars.
I have said, as a Republican serving in the Senate, I was not in the Senate at the time of HB2, regardless of how you feel about HB2. But even in the last year and a half, I continuously get beat as a Republican in the General Assembly, get beat over the head of all the money that we lost from HB2 and how you run all these businesses and the All-Star game and all this stuff. Okay, so you were talking about $100 million. That's a lot of money. The convention is $170 million that was pulled out. So if we have to find a silver lining, Archie, I hope it's that we never have to be beat over the head with the HB2 argument again, because this convention, regardless of your party, regardless of whether you even follow politics, was good for the state from a financial standpoint. Sure. And why does money matter? Once this tragedy is over, there is going to be a large rebuilding process. Yeah. And the coffers are not, they're not full. There's no money in the coffers.
Well, we're seeing small businesses close now. They just can't keep hanging on.
Sure.
Under this. And, is there talk of another stimulus?
From the federal level, I've heard of some stuff in terms of the stimulus. One thing that we tried to be as responsible with as possible. So the first two stimuluses that came down from the federal to the state level, a lot of folks were saying, spend it. You got this money, just spend it and help it. Well, the thing about it is, if you go down to county and municipal budgets as well as the state budget, you've sucked out 20% minimum of these budgets. So what we were trying to do is be proactive and say, let's see if we can get flexibility from the federal government that will allow us to kind of backfill some of these holes so that we can continue some of the programs that are that people rely upon. And a lot of times, especially in any form of government, you deal with budgets and you see these line items and they've got figures on there, and they're basically a budget with line items and figures. But for every line item, there's a person or a family or a business that relies on that particular line item to survive. Yeah. So you have to kind of personalize when you're looking at these budget deficits. You can't just strike off a line. We're trying to figure out a way to, if we can get some flexibility from the federal government, which they have not given us yet. So if we can get that flexibility and try to start backfilling some of these figures to so that we can keep these important programs in place for people that really need them.
There's some people that could really use, a second stimulus.
Oh, absolutely.
They're really hurting right now.
And I have to remind folks, State of North Carolina doesn't print money. So we have to deal with a finite pie, and we rely on the federal government to kind of help us with those stimulus packages.
Yeah. It's frustrating at best. All right, so how's Trump doing in the election bid?
I think it's a little different situation right now. I think Trump is doing as well as could be expected under the circumstances. Different people have different opinions about how he's performing. You'll see a poll today that says he's up. You'll see a poll tomorrow that says he's down.
Right.
What I think, though, if you look at the leadership that he's provided from a national perspective, he has done what he could do with it. You got to think he's got a Democratic House.
Yeah.
Republicans. When you have a split Congress like that, it's a different animal. Not necessarily a bad animal. Obviously, I would love a Republican House, but it does pose some challenges.
In spite of all that, in the pandemic and all that, the economy is just trying to.
It's trying as hard as it can.
It is trying, and we were hoping for a V recovery, but it's going to probably be more like a narrow U. I have often said that I think Trump made one mistake with the coronavirus thing, and your phone lines may light up, and people may want to throw me out of here by saying this, but if Trump would have come out early on and said, this is a very serious virus. We're going to shut the entire country down. Just shut it down. Well, the media would have flipped on him and said, "You're crazy. You shouldn't do this."
Yeah, he should have used a little reverse psychology.
That was a mistake I think he made, but I think he's recovered well from that standpoint, in that he's leaning on the people that are actually professionals in this and trying to take guidance, which is, he's always been a leader and kind of done it his way, but I think in this case he's done a pretty good job of trying to listen to those. And the other piece is he is giving local states the ability to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're looking, when you become elected to office, you don't all of a sudden have all the answers to everything.
Right.
Because, I get emails sometimes, well, what are you doing? Specifically, I don't know the answer to everything. You don't become enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
You simply have to rely on people around you to help guide you, and folks that are professionals in certain areas. And then take that information and try to navigate and figure out what's going to be the best path for you. But as far as Trump's campaign, the challenge he has right now is a lot of his campaign, so to speak, are the rallies and being able to go and get people enthused and people to see. Because once you see him in a non-news media environment, you realize he's just another guy.
Yeah.
He really is just a normal, if you can say a billionaire is normal, but he's a normal guy, and he seems very approachable.
He's not a politician.
He's not a politician.
Yeah, still a non-politician.
And folks, I think that's why he was elected. I would
exactly
have never in a million years believed that he could have ever been elected when he first came.
That's the reason.
We were all flabbergasted.
That's the reason that these polls you need to put absolutely no stock into, because every poll on earth said Hillary Clinton was winning that election, going away.
Right.
So the polls I ignore, man. I just ignore them.
Polls do not elect people. People go into the ballot place people.
That's right.
And people actually getting out. So my only fear is that folks are going to be scared, because if you think the state's been shut down for a period of time, people were sitting at home watching TV, and every other commercial was some celebrity saying, "Stay home, stay safe," this, blah, blah, blah. And so folks have been hearing and seeing that constantly. And here's the thing. What I've said for months is, do what your mama or your grandma told you. Wash your hands. Don't get in people's face.
Yeah.
Don't go coughing on people. It's common sense.
Yeah, we've turned it into something that's just above and beyond what it needed to be. It's common sense. It's always been common sense. And when the governor speaks and makes this announcement about school today, I'm just curious as to the politics out of it. What's your gut say the governor will say today?
Oh, wow, that's tough.
I'm asking Todd, my friend, not Todd. Because you got kids in the system.
Sure. I do not foresee the governor having the ability to open schools
just
normally.
Across the board.
I just don't see that. And I think there is a lot of external factors playing in. The NCAE has a very strong hold on the governor. I have my personal opinions, and I'll reserve them for another time.
And he can't kick the can down the road anymore. I mean, you got to make a decision.
I think it's got to be a mixture of staggered. Some kids go today, some go tomorrow, kind of thing.
One of the things that's gaining steam, and I've talked to some folks in the education, in the Board of Education here locally, one of the things that's gaining steam is to send kids through the 8th grade to school and high schoolers at home. That's one of the things that seems to be one of the popular theories, is that, once you reach 14, 15 years old, you're not as dependent on mama to help you with this, doing distance learning. But now, I don't know what that accomplishes, because the same thing can be, why wear your mask in a restaurant and take it off when you sit down? I mean, so I don't know what it accomplishes, but that's just one of the things that's popular.
Well, and there's some, in Union County, we're pretty fortunate with internet and stuff, but there's still parts of this county not far from where we sit right here
where they don't
do not have access to internet. So distance learning is not an option for them. I would like to see something to where it's more of a choice, where folks that are truly scared for their life are not forced to do something. So there are
but that's too simple. They don't do that.
There are teachers and there are parents and there are students that want to go back to school, and what we should do is let them go back to school. And then folks that are really scared and just don't feel comfortable, we shouldn't force them to go back to school.
If the governor were to come out at 3 o'clock today and say, "Listen, we're going to open school back this fall, And if you're just not comfortable with sending your children, we'll work with you every way we can to let them do long distance learning.
And here's something again, talking about the kids that gets missed in the discussion all too often. Unfortunately, there are some kids that don't get to eat.
Yeah, that's
and this
the
is
truth.
this is their chance to actually be able to eat a hot meal.
Listen, we talked about it this morning. The CDC director was in Mecklenburg County yesterday. He said these kids need to be in school. The meals, since all this, Mecklenburg County alone, 1 million meals.
Yeah.
The majority of child abuse is reported through
said it was
teachers.
down 40% child abuse reports since this happened.
And I'll tell you, child abuse is not down.
Yeah,
Reported child
report,
abuse.
that's exactly right.
And so
right.
school allows an opportunity with an abusive parent or an abusive family member for them to actually get a little bit of reprieve and just relax and try to get out of that environment. So there are a lot of downstream effects by the decisions being made that I do not think are being considered, such as opioid overdoses, suicide attempts, Narcan uses, a number of things that are happening that seem to kind of be put on the back burner. And it's unfortunate because these are important lives also.
That's true. All right. The famous saying is those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it. We keep tearing down our monuments and names off of buildings as if that's going to make us, make some of our bad parts of our history go away. We need to remember that history. Just like the concentration camps in World War II, it happened.
Yeah, they didn't bulldoze them and say that, let's plant flowers and pretend it didn't happen.
They actually forced the German people to come and look.
Go
That's
look.
right.
That's right.
And forced them to look at it so that they would not.
And to this day, you can go look at it because it's...
Yeah.
And what I think, even taking a step back from that, Archie, is we are a nation of laws, and law and order is paramount to what we have been able to do as a nation. And so once we become, and we are complicit in lawlessness, then that's become a major problem. So destruction of any property should never be tolerated at any level. And there are ways to get things accomplished. If you are not happy with something, there are ways to do it.
Right.
And there are proper ways to do it. And I think what you've seen is a complicit, is a government being complicit to lawlessness, and that should never be acceptable.
I mean, we've never seen anything like it in our lifetimes, and calls to defund the police is just idiotic.
Well, and
you really want to live in a town or city, whatever, and
law enforcement. I joke around and say, in insurance, I pick at my attorney friends. There's bad apples in every single thing. And so law enforcement has bad apples too. But as a whole, most law enforcement are good, honest people that, quite honestly, are underpaid and overworked. And they do it because of a love for their community and a love for the community that they serve in.
Right.
And it's unfortunate with the attacks that a lot of these folks are coming on. Now, again, there are bad apples, and we need to address those bad apples.
Right.
But it's unfortunate.
Don't forget to cut your air conditioner off, because that's how the Rona's getting you now, coming through the air conditioning vents. That's what it said this
Sounds
morning.
like we're in an egg discussion. When you can eat eggs, it's good for you. Then you can't eat eggs the next day because they're bad for you.
I can't make up my mind
So-
if I can eat a pound of bacon or not.
Maybe our best hope would be that somehow or another the governor's enlightened and at 3 o'clock says we need to leave this up to districts. If some places are much higher risk than others, and this needs to be something our local boards of education decide for themselves. That would be.
I just don't see it.
I don't either. I'm just trying to find something good.
I know you are, but he hasn't shown us any of that.
No,
willing to work.
I agree.
He wants to be make the ultimate decision. I don't think it'll be this part of the state can do this and this can do that. I think he wants to make a decision for the entire state.
I just think for political cover, if he's planning on running again, he's got to do something other than just say we shutting it down, because there's a bunch of Democrats who want the kids back into school.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think if I had to look into my crystal ball that I don't have,
looking at that Diet Coke bottle too.
Yeah, that's right. I would say he would potentially kind of kick the can again and then call General Assembly back in, because he has the authority to call us back in. And
So then he
now
can blame it on y'all?
Oh,
He had floated the idea, hadn't said it lately, but he floated the idea of a phase 2.5.
You know, and the sad thing, not saying in the schools, but with businesses, you know, these businesses that are shut down are not businesses that can say, all right, we're going to open you back up today, and then they start opening tomorrow, and their places are full. It takes a startup time, and they got to kind of build their facility back up, hire people back that have been put out of work, and you know, it's very disheartening to see the way that a lot of these folks have been kind of given the raw deal on it, because I still struggle with how I can go to Walmart and Lowe's, but I can't go to my local gym, or I cannot go to my local business. It just doesn't make sense. There's no consistency with the application of his decisions.
No. Election year for you?
It is, and I do have an opponent. I don't know much about him, but we're excited. We're running a full-blown campaign. We're trying to be respectful of folks that that are still concerned about some of the virus stuff. So we're trying to do more media and more phone calls and stuff of that nature, as opposed to knocking doors. I've kind of always been notorious for knocking doors. I just like it. You get to meet people and see people and talk to people, but still trying to be respectful of that. And I think what you're going to see is this is going to be a huge election year this is a big ballot. Yeah. I always encourage people to go all the way down the ballot, all the way down to the soil and water candidates, top to bottom, the judges. The president's going to he's going to be in a tough fight. And so regardless of your opinion of his tweets, we need to consider the alternatives. Yeah. And whether, like I tell people, if you can't vote for him, don't vote against him. Vote.
Yeah, because they ain't many people going to vote for Joe Biden. I'm going to tell you that now. It'd be a vote against Trump.
It's scary.
It's unfortunate that he gets a pass on a lot of the things that he has said and done over the years. And the same things that you're beating one person up, you're giving a pass and almost praising another person. That's why he's been put down in the basement somewhere. Yeah. And they're not letting him out. Yeah. Because he would be his own worst nightmare if he got out next.
We appreciate you coming and talking to us today, Todd. Thank you.
Absolutely.
A whole lot. And good luck.
Thanks.
We'll break. We'll be back.